Hello everybody, it's Maria Willis from Card Bomb here, and I'm so glad to have you here with me today so that we can take a closer look at the Hero Arts My Monthly Hero Kit for September. We're going to be taking a look at how to use the stencils that come with this kit, and I'm also going to be showing you a really easy way to add foiled accents with no heat necessary. This month's kit comes with this gorgeous sunflower stamp and a coordinating die. I really love this sunflower because you can color it in any way that you want, or you can use these coordinating stencils that come with the kit to add perfect layers of color. There are also two fantastic word dies that come with this kit. Each of them comes with the shadow layer and a detailed word die that you can either use together or separately. Now, if you actually use them together, you get that really cool hollow look that I have on my hand at the bottom, thanks. So that's just a really unique take on these dies. Now I'm going to go ahead and get started. I have used my anti-static powder tool, some Onyx pigment ink, and now I'm going to go ahead and cover that sticky pigment ink with clear embossing powder so that I can heat emboss my entire image. I like to heat emboss from behind and in front, and then when I'm done I've got that perfectly heat embossed image and I can move on to using my layering stencils. So I'm going to start with the stencil that has the largest detailed image. I've labeled mine at the top left corner just for ease of use, but you don't have to do that if you don't want to. So I'm just going to line that up on top of the floral image, and it is so easy to line up. It's not fussy at all, and I'm using my tonic magnetic platform so that I can keep my stencil and my paper in place without having to use tape. Now take a look at these squares in the top and bottom corners of these stencils. These are for alignment. So before I remove my first stencil, I'm going to go ahead and take a marker and I'm going to mark those 4 squares out, because now all I need to do to line up stencil number 2 is to place it down on top of the floral image. Make sure that those squares line up perfectly, and I'm going to have a perfect lineup every single time. Now my first layer of color was Lemon Drop Reactive ink, and now I'm going with the darker Creamsicle Reactive ink. I'm not being very careful about my application because actually a little bit of shading is going to look neat in my finished flowers. Now layer number 3 is going to be the centers of the flowers, and I would like those to be a little bit darker for this particular image, and so I'm going to use Root Beer Reactive ink and just apply a layer to the center of the flowers, and you can see how perfectly those alignment squares are really helping me get things lined up. Now I'm going in with layer number 4, and this is going to be the larger background for these leaves, so I'm going in with my lighter color of Key Lime Fizz. So if you'll notice, I'm doing the larger stencils first, and then after that I go in with the detailed stencils, and the detailed stencils I'm applying darker color. So this final stencil has the details for both the centers of the flowers as well as for the leaves, and I've decided to do 2 different colors. So I'm using Cup of Joe on the center of the flowers, and then I'm going to be going in with emerald green for the detailed portion of the leaves. I did go in between the 2 colors and use a paper towel to clean off my stencil so that I wouldn't have any contamination of color, but honestly a little bit of brown as shadowing in the leaves would have probably looked really good, so it really doesn't matter if you don't want to do that. Now after using all 5 layering stencils, here is what our sunflower looks like, and I just think the shading is so great, but if you know me, I can never leave well enough alone, so I've got to grab my R27 Copic marker, and I'm just going to add some flicks to add a little bit of extra shading and a little bit of extra color to the sunflowers. So I'm doing this first sunflower a little bit more slowly just to show you what I'm doing. This is just only sped up to double time, so you can see it really is pretty quick, and I'm just flicking from the center into the petals just to add a little bit of extra detail. I am going to go ahead and do that with all of the rest of the sunflowers, but I'm going to speed that up quite a bit. I just want to give you an idea of what that looks like though, so you can see it just adds a little bit of fire to it, gives it a little bit of something extra. You can do that if you want to. You also don't have to, because it is totally beautiful just using the stencils alone. The other thing that I really want to point out is that while I did use all 5 of the stencil layers, because we're going to be doing some foiled accents, I probably didn't actually need to use the 5th layer, but I really wanted to show you guys how cool all of those stencils work together. Now we're going to be taking that fifth stencil and popping it right back on top of our sunflower image, and then we're going to grab our Deco Foil Transfer Gel Duo. You got to get the Duo because the Duo is the one that does not require heat. So I'm going to apply just a little bit of that through my stencil using a palette knife, and I am being careful to make sure that I'm not pressing and overworking it so that it goes underneath the stencil. I really just want it to sit in those detailed areas of the stencil. Now I'm going to carefully remove my stencil, and you can see that that transfer gel is white and opaque while it's wet. So the way that you know it's time to foil is when it is clear like this. You can let it dry naturally or heat it like I did. Now I'm going to grab my Deco foil transfer sheets, and I've got them linked up in the description box below just to make sure you get the right ones if you're interested in trying this out. And I'm going to use gold and green, and I'm just going to cut pieces to size and place them pretty side up on top of the areas that we had applied that transfer gel to. Now, if you've never used these foiling sheets before, it's important to know that there is a colored or pretty side and then like that whitish silvery side. And so that silvery side is always going to go face down and stick to your transfer gel because you want to see what's facing up. Now I'm going to apply some light pressure to those to just show you that they're starting to stick already, and I'm going to burnish these with a bone folder. Now I decided to do this manually because I thought it was so neat that I didn't even need a die cutting machine to apply pressure, but you can also just, as this is right now, run this straight through your die cutting machine and apply a really nice layer of even pressure with your die cutting machine. I just thought it was super cool that I didn't even need to do that. So for anyone who doesn't have a die cutting machine but wants to be able to add these gorgeous foiled accents, you can do it by hand. And I just thought that that was so neat. So I'm just burnishing all of my foil, and I'm starting to see around the edges of the transfer gel that it's separating a little bit from those foiled sheets, and that's cluing me in that it's time to go ahead and remove the foil. So I'm just going to pull that right off, and now my leaves have those green highlights and the centers of my flower have beautiful golden detail, and it's so eye-catching and so beautiful and just so easy to do. All right, now I'm going to grab my coordinating die because let's turn this beauty into a card. So I went ahead and die cut that, and now I've got this beautiful foiled centerpiece, and I am going to grab a piece of pitch black cardstock that I've used double-sided adhesive on to turn it into sticker paper. Now I cut the thanks die 2 times out of that and 1 time out of regular paper. Now to help with alignment, I left one of those dies right in the die cut, and then I just stuck the second die cut right on top of that using the die to help me get that perfect alignment. And now I'm able to stick my 3rd layer on with everything still in the die, making sure that I have perfect alignment for all 3 of those die cuts. And as I only used that sticker adhesive and no liquid glue, I don't have any mess at all to deal with. I just have a perfect layered die cut sentiment. Now let's figure out how we're going to lay this card out, and I think I'd like to put that sunflower down at the bottom left corner, but I really want to make sure that it's going to pop off my card. So I've grabbed my blue Hawaii Reactive ink, and then I'm just ink blending in that corner. I'm applying the ink more heavily in the corner and then much lighter as it fades towards the opposite side of the card. So that looks pretty good to me. And now we've got to deal with that little bit of overhang that we've got going on because our floral image is large, and I'm going to be making an A2 card, so I need to cut some of it off. So I just flipped it over and cut off the excess, and I'm going to save those little bits for something else. Now I wanted my card to say thanks so much, so I grabbed the message strip Stampin' Cut XL, and I grabbed the so much sentiment from that, and I'm just going to use my Misty to go ahead and stamp that. Again, I'm using the Onyx pigment ink with clear embossing powder. And now I'm going to use my Hero Arts pre-folded card bases, which I love. They save me so much time to glue my card face down onto that card base so that I'm ready to go. Now I've already added some foam adhesive to the back of my sunflower, so I'm just going to pop those down, and I love the extra dimension that I get with the foam tape. Now I want to splatter my background, and I'm going to also splatter my sunflowers. I'm using white and gold glimmer metallic ink to do that. I've just put a drop of each of those down on my work surface, added about 1 drop of water so that I could thin it down just a little bit so that it was a little bit easier to spread. And the reason why I chose the white and gold was because I thought that those two colors tied in nicely to that gold foiling and the white edges around the flower. Now I'm going to add my Thanks die cut on with just a little bit of my Hero Arts precision glue, and that is it for this card. Now I also want to show you another card that I did that has no foiling, but I did the exact same color scheme for the stencils. And I did the red marker pen too. So the card on the left has no foiling and the card on the right is foiling. Now here is another example of where I foiled, and I just think that this technique adds so much to these cards and makes them so striking, but it's also so easy to do. So thank you guys so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this technique. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I've also got links in the description box below if you're interested in checking out my blog or any of the products that I've used today. Thanks so much and have an awesome day. Bye guys!